Could this be the best DJ controller ever released for beginner DJs? Let's find out. Here it is, the Pioneer DJ DDJ FLX4, the DJ controller that takes the place of the DDJ-400 in the lineup of controllers from Pioneer. This new controller brings with it some neat features that are perfect for any beginner DJ out there. Things such as the smart fader. Which combines effects and synchronizes the tracks together while changing the BPM, so you can easily mix between any genre and any BPM using just the fader. Something else new for this controller is a smart color effect. This combines multiple effects together into one pot. This is again something unique to this controller. We're going to dive deep into all of these features and I'm going to share with you everything that's on this controller, including these new features, and go deep dive into the software that it works with. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. The aim for this review is to help you make better purchasing decisions if you're thinking about buying this controller, or if you already have it, then you're going to learn a lot by watching through the walkthroughs. At the end, I'll be giving my personal opinions as well. If you have just got your hands on this controller, at the end of this video, I'll be providing a link where you can get exclusive access to a free tutorial where I'll share with you how to perform your first mixes and download our free Crossfader music pack so you can follow along step by step with the exact music. Let's get started. The DDJ FLX4 works with numerous DJ software out of the box. You can plug and play with Pioneer DJ's very own Rekordbox, allowing DJs to get familiar with the ecosystem that runs right through to club standard CDJs, or with Serato DJ Lite. Plus, you can have a paid upgrade up to Serato DJ Pro, which is a favourite for turntablists and battle DJs, including the use of the unique stems mixing technology included in there. The DDJ FLX4 also features USB-C ports, a first for this level of equipment and a welcome addition in my opinion. These ports bring with it connectivity to laptops, iOS devices, Android and tablet devices, all with pass-through charging. It even has built-in Bluetooth, so you can connect wirelessly to these devices too. Please note though, you will need to buy a separate splitter cable and possibly a plug to power the device depending on the setup you choose. Also, it's worth mentioning that the iOS and Android app update by Rekordbox won't be ready until early 2023. So at launch, this device doesn't actually work with any mobile device or app, even though it's a huge selling point of the unit. We will cover app integration in a future review when it's been released. Unfortunately, no support for Algorithm DJ at launch, but I can imagine it will get added soon afterwards. Straight away, this is one of the biggest selling points for me about this unit. We get asked all the time, which DJ controller should I start with? And we're always saying to people, well, we need to try and choose the software that you want to use down the line. If you want to be just playing on CDJs, then I go with Rekordbox. If you want to be a turntablist, playing in battle style scenarios, then go with Serato. However, with this controller, it unlocks both, which is one of the biggest selling points for me, and bravo to Pioneer for bringing that down to this entry-level price point, because now as a beginner DJ, you can buy this controller and you can test out both softwares, get a feel for both and see which one you prefer, and then stick with that down your DJ journey. So that is a huge tick from me, and that's one of the biggest reasons why this controller really stands out as one of the best for beginners on the market right now. Let's start with a Rekordbox walkthrough. This unlocks the full version of Rekordbox with no paid extras. You plug this controller in via the USB-C cable provided and it unlocks Rekordbox and you can use it to its full potential. Remember that all the music you prepare in Rekordbox can then be exported to a USB device and plugged into CDJs, so you can still use the same points and things that you've done on your controller on the CDJs as well. So that's a huge pro for starting with Rekordbox as a beginner DJ. If anyone's familiar with the DDJ-400, you'll see it has a very, very similar layout, which is very much welcomed because it inherits all the things that you would find on a standard club typical layout, and everything's in a very similar place. It has, however, had a nice design and look makeover with a much nicer faceplate on this unit compared to the DDJ-400. Looking at the deck section of the controller, we have the typical features, things like your cue and your play button. These are important for DJs because you can cue a track up and then you can continue it playing. You can always go back to the cue point to start your mix again. Then we have the jog wheel. This allows DJs to nudge the track faster. or slower using the edge of the jog wheel. We can use the top of the jog wheel to scrub through the track or scratch. Then we have the tempo adjust. Again, a good size on a controller of this level and this caliber. We can speed the track up and slow it down. You'll notice that I can speed this up very drastically and slow it down very drastically at the moment. That's because my tempo range is on a very wide range. So I can use this, the shift button, and press beat sync, and I can toggle through plus or minus 6, 10, 16 and wide, and that's the percentage available to us to speed up or slow down the track. Then moving over up to the top, we have our looping controls and our beat sync controls. Like I mentioned, if we don't hold shift and press this button, it will sync with the opposite side. So I could press both and you'll see that the BPMs match. And then if I were to play both songs, it will sync them together. So even if I press play slightly wrong, you'll see that the grids lock together and it syncs them. This is useful for beginner DJs just starting out. However, we do recommend that you learn to mix without sync as well as with sync. Then moving across, we have our looping controls. We can simply use the in and the out button to set up a loop. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 2, 2, 3, 4. And you can see we've set a 4-beat loop there. You can exit that or you can half and 2 times the loop. If I were to half it, it chops it down. Or double it. We can go much bigger and much smaller with that loop. We can exit the loop with this button here. It's worth noting that we would want quantize on when looping, and quantize can be found here in the software. There isn't a dedicated button for it on the hardware, but if you leave it on in the software, you'll be able to loop nice and tight to the grid. Underneath these buttons are secondary features. We've already covered tempo range, but then moving across we have this active loop. This is where you can set up a loop. You can then save that in the memory bank. So if I were to press shift and then this right arrow, it stores it in the memory and you see a red marker go on the screen. Now if I were to exit that loop and go before it, I can hold shift and press this exit and you'll see that it will activate that loop when it gets to that point. I've turned that saved loop into an active loop. If I wanted to delete, I can use my memory points here to go back and forth, and then I can hold shift and press the left one and you'll see it's deleted that loop. This can all be found within the software via this drop down here under the memory queue option. So if I were to reloop that, save it, you can see it's there. If I were to press this, it becomes a red loop icon, which makes it an active loop. Looking at the bottom, these are called performance pads, and these allow you to do various things to the music, and they're very common and used by a lot of DJs. The first pad, one of the most popular, is the hot cue pad. This allows you to set different points throughout the track and jump to them at any point. You can save loops in there as well if I were to just set up a loop. And if I go back to the hot cue pad mode here, you'll see we have 3 hot cues and 1 being the hot cue loop as well, which jumps to the point and loops the track. Next we have pad effects, and you'll see it changes on the screen now. And these are just quick toggle on and off effects that you can hold and combine with some release effects available as well. So we could have 3 effects on and then release them. These can be changed using the gear icon here, and you can use the drop down to change all these effects and really make it your own. Moving along, we have the beat jump mode. This allows you to jump back and forth through the track in a determined amount of beats. So for example, here you can see there are different parameters. If I unloop this and I press this button, it will jump 16 beats forward at a time or 16 beats backward. This one is 2 beats forwards and backwards. You can see if I hold shift on these modes, I get these 2 lights that light up. These are our parameter buttons, and this allows us to change what's visible in that mode. So you can see that I'm getting bigger beat jumps or smaller beat jumps by using these buttons here, and I can beat jump through the track. Moving across, we have sampler, where you can launch one-shot samples. These can be found in the software here, and you can load in any samples you like and then trigger them just with a one shot, or you can save loops in there and you can trigger on loops that way. Moving across, we have keyboard mode. This is a secondary mode, so if we hold shift and press hotkey, we go into keyboard mode. Now it flashes and wants us to choose one of these pads as a hot cue. So if I chose the first one there, you can see that's now flashing, and we can go up from that hot cue and pitch the song up. Holding shift again, I can then go up and down, as you can see, the different semitones on the screen. So I can go down here, and it shows different pages on the screen. This is quite an advanced feature, but it's great to see also on these entry-level controllers. Then moving across again, we have Pad Effects 2. Similar to Pad Effects 1, but you can add different effects in there, so you've got 2 different modes to choose from. Next, we have Beat Loop mode. This will set an active loop, and it will just lock that loop in place, and we can change the parameter and make it bigger or smaller, as you can see on the screen as well. Toggle it again to turn it off. Lastly, we have Key Shift mode. Similar to keyboard mode, but it doesn't keep jumping back to the hot cue. It allows us to just pitch up the track as it keeps playing, or as before, go up and down the different pages. Let's go back to the original pitch. Those pad modes are very powerful and they're found on a lot of DJ controllers. Again, it's great to see them in this entry-level price point too. Moving over to the mixer section of the unit, we have our browse pot and load pots here. So we can scroll up and down playlists, we can click into a playlist, scroll up and down it, and choose different tracks by clicking load to load it in, just like that. It's also worth noting that you have access to millions and millions of songs by subscribing to an extra subscription service for DJs, things such as Beatport, BeatSource, Tidal, SoundCloud Go. There are many options out there to choose from where you can access millions of songs. You can check out our guide on our website for which streaming service might be right for you. Then moving down, we have our EQ controls, our filter controls, along with this new smart color effects, our up faders, and our crossfader. The up faders are volume controls for bringing each track in and out of the mix. The crossfader will blend from one side to the other, and when in the middle it will play both. You can change these settings within the Rekordbox preferences on how the crossfader and the up faders respond, for example. We've also got our EQs, these 3 here. If I just turn them all down, you won't hear anything. We have our high EQ, mid EQ, and low EQ, used for blending and mixing between the tracks. With Smart CFX turned off like this, this acts as a filter control, one of the most common effects used by DJs. Then at the top we have a trim control, which just allows you to balance the volume of that song. Some songs might be produced louder than others, and when you're in the mix you might want to boost or drop the volume of some of those songs. Then we have these cue buttons here, which allow you to activate each channel in the headphones, along with a master cue up here, which will bring the master level into the headphones as well. Down here we have how our headphone level adjust, where we can turn the level of the headphones up and down, or mix the master cue in with the channel cue and mix between the two. This all comes down to personal preference when you're first starting out DJing. Now let's go through all the cool effects available to us on this unit. So starting off with the new Smart CFX, which stands for Smart Color Effects. We just simply activate that, and you'll hear now it sounds different to if I turn it off. It's added an echo as well as a filter. If you hold shift and press Smart CFX, you'll see this pop up here, and you can select between all these different new effects. Let's just run through them so you can hear how they sound. Really cool for build-ups like that. And these do work post-fader. You can hear just how powerful they are just in one button. But in my opinion, some definitely sound better than others. And there we have all the smart color effects. So many possibilities can be done with just that one pot here, turning it up and down. Then moving over, we have this smart fader, which I covered right at the very start, but let's just turn this on. And then what this is aimed at really is being able to mix from one genre to another. And this is where it previously used to be very tricky because the BPMs are so different that you can't necessarily just mix them together because you'd have to make one track much faster or much slower. Now what this does is automates that process and it just creates a nicer blend when moving from one genre to another. So if I leave this song on and then just go into this folder and just load a different song on the other side, you'll see now that it's, when I've got this on, it's synchronized this track onto the other side. If I turn it off and just move this back, there we go. So when I press this button, you'll see it syncs that side. Then I can simply just choose where I want to mix it. So I could come here. And then when I start moving it across, you'll see that the tempo starts changing and going down towards the tempo of the song on the right hand side on its original tempo. I could add some filter in there. And previously that would have been very hard to get anything sounding half decent out of those two tracks without a lot of practice. So by having that in there, it just introduces DJs as beginners to how to mix between genres and how we want it to kind of sound. And you can manually do that process, but putting it all in one button, I really like it. It's something that I've done a lot manually in the past, so it's great to now see how technology is allowing us to do it just automated as well. I'll just show you as well, if I have smart fader on and I do a quick mix, let's go back the other way, and I just put this, let's say here, I could slam the fader across and you'll hear it creates like an echo. And it does the echo at the faster speed. So I could slam it across and press play. And straight away that sounds much better than trying to fight with the two songs and them not mixing together. It creates a nice echo out and we hit play. So such a great tool, all combined into that one button there. It's also worth noting that the smart fader has a few options within the preferences of Rekordbox. Just go to controller and then the mixer tab and scroll right down to smart fader. And you can see here that you can either use it with a crossfader and channel fader, just a crossfader, just a channel fader, and you can also turn on or off the recommended smart fader curve, which basically dips the volume as you move across. If you turn this off, it will just react to whatever you've got your crossfader curve set at here instead. Now, lastly, moving to the effects channel, these are the beat effects within Rekordbox. You'll see on the screen that these are open by this tab here. And then we can just toggle through the effects using this button. We can hold shift to go back up through them. When we land on an effect we want, we can then choose which channel we want to apply it to, whether it's channel 1, channel 2, or channels 1 and 2 both at the same time. If I put it on channel 1 and press play, I'll bring the level down, turn the effect on, and then we use this here, the beat fraction, to choose the parameter. So let's say half a beat, and then bring the level up, you'll hear the effects be applied. It works post fader. You can change the beat fraction while it's on. And you can turn it off there. There is also a release effect. If you hold shift and press this button, it will turn the effect off with whatever we choose here. So let's do a backspin. And then when I let go, the effect's been turned off, and that's the release effect. As you can see, it packs a punch and it does not hold back when it comes to the integration with Rekordbox. You have access to so many features and so many things in there. So if you get this as a beginner DJ, yes, you can learn the basics. You can even use some of these tools, these new tools, to help you mix different genres, but then you're not restricted there. Once you improve in your skills, you can take your skills up and up and up, just all with this entry-level controller. You don't even need to necessarily upgrade your controller to unlock extra features. This has so much packed into it in such a small footprint. Now moving on to the Serato DJ Lite software. This is a free software that comes with the controller as well, and you can download it for free even if you don't have the controller. Now it's worth mentioning at this point that we use beta versions of the software that go along with it. So we're using the Serato DJ Lite beta version and Pro beta version. And just recently Serato have announced Serato stems in their 3.0 update. Now in this beta version I don't have the stems in here because this must have been built previous to that. But when Serato 3.0 comes out, you should get stems with this controller as well, which is one of the biggest selling points of Serato in my opinion, where you can isolate the vocals, the drums, the melodies and the bass of any song, and it works amazingly. So if you want to check that out, check out our review around Serato stems update, but everything else let's run through here. So first of all, let's go through all the things that are the same realistically are things like your mixer section, your faders and crossfader work all the same. The effects work very similarly. I'll quickly run through them. You can see the effects drop down here and you basically toggle through them as before, and then you can choose your beat fraction and then you can activate the effect and choose which channel it's applied to, whether it's 1, 2 or 1 and 2. So that works very similarly, but there aren't as many effects in Serato DJ Lite. Just like there aren't as many other things available to us, it's a much more stripped back software compared to Rekordbox, which has its pros and cons. It means when you want to level up, you need to start paying for the Serato DJ Pro software. You can't record your sets or anything like that. And there are loads of things that you get by upgrading to Serato DJ Pro. However, I do love this software for beginner DJs. It is stripped back and it's simple and easy to get your head around. But because it's the secondary software to this controller over Rekordbox, it's not all mapped out exactly the same, and there's things you have to figure out that aren't labeled exactly right. So let's go through the looping modes. First thing to note is that I would recommend looping in Serato DJ Lite. You would press this 4-beat loop here, and that will set a 4-beat loop. You can then half this down to 1 beat or 2 times it all the way up to 8 beats, and they're the only parameters you have available in Serato DJ Lite. Press that again to exit. If you do a manual loop, it doesn't stick to the quantize rule like in Rekordbox. Beat sync works the same as in Rekordbox. Your tempo adjust, again, works the same. Now coming down to the performance pads, we only have 4 performance pads available. These secondary layers are unlocked in Serato DJ Pro. Hot cues work the same, where you have 4 hot cues. However, the bottom 4 pads are transport controls like changing track, rewinding, fast forwarding, reversing, all that kind of stuff. The hot cues you can set throughout the track and delete as standard. You can't save loops in Serato DJ Lite. That was something that would come with Serato DJ Pro. Moving across, we have pad effects again on the top layer. But again, the bottom layer are called transport controls that do the same as the previous mode. Beat jump, you can beat jump forwards and backwards. This is a bit tricky because we don't know what the parameter is of the beat jump. So you can change it here, and I can go right down to, I think that's just 1 beat. And then I can go all the way up to 8 beats. But it doesn't show anywhere on the screen clearly what parameter you're on. So you've kind of got to guess what parameter you're on to beat jump backwards and forwards. Then we have the sampler. Again, 4 pads available, and you can change them in here and drag and drop them into this section on the software. So performance pads are super simple. We don't have any more than that. Everything else is unlocked in Serato DJ Pro upgrade. Then moving across, the few things that are slightly different again are the smart CFX. I've only found 2 in here, and again, it doesn't show you on the screen what you've got active. So I can toggle this on and it does that filter echo effect, which is really nice. I'd probably leave it on that anyway, but that's really nice. And then I found if I press shift and FX select, it turns it off. But if I press shift and that FX select again, it flashes, which means we're on this reverb sounding one. So I suppose there is an indicator there of which one you're on, but it kind of toggles through the 3 modes: off, flashing, off, or just turn it on. So there's a few different things to kind of figure out there and get familiar with. And then the smart fader is the one thing that I'm not sure if this has just not been mapped out correctly because this is a beta version. I will have to reach out to Serato. I'm hoping this gets fixed very quickly upon launch, but at the moment the smart effects creates the echo when you come across, but you'll see it doesn't sync the 2 tracks together. So The track on my right hand side is still at 84 BPM and the track on my left is 126. So this fading across technique doesn't really work like it should, in my opinion. So maybe that's something that just needs fixing in Serato, but as it stands, I just wanted to make you aware of that. I'm sure they will get that fixed though. Other than that, pretty much everything else is the same. So, you know, the hardware feels very similar. And the best thing about this is they're both free, so you can bounce back and forth between the two. And like I said, Serato stems should be in there as well, where you can swap one of these pad modes for the stems pad mode, and you can isolate different parts of the song, which is something unique currently over Rekordbox and something well worth trying out. Something I did find currently with the beta version of Serato DJ Pro, the upgrade, is that the looping isn't quite mapped out right. So these left and right buttons don't chop down the loop in half or double it. What they do is just unloop the song. So there's definitely some issue going on there, which I'm sure will be ironed out. And then also, again, the smart fader doesn't work. It's the same as in Serato DJ Lite, and I think that needs updating as well. So there are a few things, I think, a few teething problems with the Serato DJ Pro integration as well, but something I'm sure will be ironed out once this gets released. Regardless of the software you decide to use, all the inputs and outputs remain the same, with an 1/8" headphone output on the front, and then a jack input on the back for a microphone with a dedicated microphone level control on the top as well. It's worth noting now that this microphone passes through the USB, so if you want to live stream your DJ sets, it will send that microphone audio through to the live stream, something that the predecessor, the DDJ-400, didn't do, so a great upgrade there. We've also got the RCA master out, which can take the sound out to your speakers, plus the USB-C charging port and the connection port, both USB-C with, like I said, the pass-through charging. So for example, I could take my laptop charger here, plug it into the charging port on here, and it will actually charge my laptop now through this cable. Same goes for an iPhone, an Android phone, a tablet as well, when that gets released. Talking about that is one of the most exciting things for me, and it's a shame that it's not ready for the launch of this controller, but we will be covering it extensively when it does come out. There is currently the Rekordbox app on the App Store, and you can download it now, and you can use something called Cloud Library Sync to prepare your music on the go, but that's all it is. It's a preparation tool. You can prepare hot cues, playlists, and the sort, and then when you go back to your laptop, it synchronizes back through the cloud, all of those points. Now, what they're doing in early 2023 is releasing an update to this app, whereby when you turn it into landscape mode, it activates performance mode of the application, which is what is going to work with this controller and plug directly in, so you can DJ directly from that application. This is a really exciting upgrade. It's going to be interesting to see what the competition do. Algorithm DJ being the most popular app out there at the moment, and Rekordbox coming in behind them. We'll see how it pans out. But in my opinion, it's going to be great for beginner DJs to get started just on a phone, start DJing on something like this, but then know that all the music they prepare and everything they do will translate all the way up to the club standard Pioneer CDJ equipment as well. So you don't have to keep moving between software. It all works in one ecosystem. This also coming in at £279 here in the UK or $299 in the US is a great price point. Considering how much it works with all the different softwares, the main softwares that are out there, Rekordbox and Serato, it is a powerhouse, and it really does unlock so much potential for a low price point. The DDJ-400, its predecessor, sold like hotcakes. It has been the best-selling controller by Pioneer, and for all good reason, and I have no doubt that this is going to just follow suit and sell extremely well too, especially now that you can use it with Serato as well as Rekordbox, and there is an iOS and Android app coming out soon too. This really could be the single solution that all beginner DJs need, and we're really excited to see how people start using this controller and some of its features. Speaking of that, we have an extra free tutorial that you can watch. If you've just got your hands on this controller, you can just sign up via the link. You'll get access to all of our Crossfader music pack, a huge library of music to start your journey with. And in there, you can watch a free lesson where we will show you how to perform some of your first mixes with that music. As always, we also have a performance on this controller where you can see it in action. You can see me mixing, using all of these features and really putting it to the test. So go check that out too. I'd love to find out in the comments below what you think. I love this controller. I think it is a great solution from Pioneer DJ, and I would highly, highly recommend it to any new DJs just getting started out there. Remember to check out the links for any courses relevant to this controller that we have. We can help you get started on your journey to becoming a confident and creative DJ. Thanks for watching. Please remember to give it a thumbs up, drop a comment below and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned and I'll see you again very soon.